Welcome to part 4 of reading and writing files in Python. The first topic that we're going to be covering is how you write and read numeric data. So strings can be written directly to a file with the write method, but numbers must be converted to strings before they can be written. Python has a built-in function named str that will go ahead and convert a value to a string. So what we have here is, if we look at this first statement, opens the file numbers.txt for writing. And then in 10 through 12, we're prompting the user to go ahead and enter three numbers, which are assigned to our variables num1, num2, and num3. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and run the program, and then we'll talk about the rest of the statements in the actual program. So we'll enter 22, we'll enter 35, and we'll enter a -95 and hit enter. Data was written to our numbers.txt file. So if we go ahead and look at that file, we'll go ahead and open it up. We have 22, 35, and a -95, the three numbers that we entered. Let me find the program here. So if you go ahead and take a look at the statement right here, basically what we're doing in this statement, we're converting the value referenced by num1 to a string, and then we're concatenating the new line escape sequence to it. In the program sample run, the user entered 22 as the first number, so this expression produces the string 22 new line. As a result, string 22 new line is written to the file. Lines 16 and 17 perform the similar operations, writing the values referenced by num1 and num2 to the file. So that's why the numbers appear on new lines. So what we're doing here is the user entered three integer numbers, and then in order to write those to the file, we had to convert those integer numbers to strings before they can be written to the actual file. So what we're going to do next is we're going to look at how you read numbers. So let me go ahead and open up the next program. Okay, so when you read numbers from a text file, they always read as strings and must be converted before they are used in a math operation. So basically, we're opening a file for reading, and what we're doing is we're converting what gets read in, so each one of our lines, into an integer on the following three lines. And then we close the file, and then what we're doing here is we're actually summing up the three numbers, and then we're going to display the three numbers, and we're going to display their total down below. So when you're working with numbers, when you read those numbers from the file, the first thing you need to do is you need to go ahead and convert those. In this case, we're converting those to integers before you can go ahead and use them in any math operation. So we will go ahead and run this program. And our numbers are 22, 35, and a -95. So that's 57 and minus 95, which is a -38. So it looks like it ran correctly. And the final topic we're going to be covering is using loops to process files. So although some programs use files to store only small amounts of data, files are typically used to hold large collections of data. When a program uses a file to write or read a large amount of data, a loop is typically involved. So what we're going to do here is we're going to open up our next program, and it is going to be called write sales. And what we're doing in this program is we're prompting the user for sales amounts, and we're going to write those amounts to the sales text file. So in the statement right here, we're prompting the user to let us know how many days of sales they're going to enter. Then we're going to open our new file in write mode. It's going to be called sales.txt. It'll be saved in our current working directory since we have not passed in a path to it. Then what we're going to do in this actual for loop is we're going to get the amount of sales for each day and write it to the file. So the first thing, we're going to use our for statement. It's going to be in the range starting at 1 through the number of days plus 1, because this number is up to but not includes the number of days that the user entered. We're going to go ahead and get the sales for the day, so we're going to prompt the user to enter the sales, and what we're going to do is we're going to specify what day it is, and then we're going to go ahead and save it as a float into sales. And then we're going to write the sales amount to the file. So in order to write that sales amount to the file, we need to convert that float back into a string, and we're going to write each number on a new line. Then we're going to close the file, and we're going to let the user know that it was successful. So we will go ahead and run the file here. And we'll enter 5 days, 150.25, 375.33, 423.7, 965.2, and 46.99. We'll go ahead and hit enter. It comes back with the message that the data has been written to our sales .text file. So if we go ahead and open up the sales.txt file, we have the 5 numbers entered, and they've been saved on separate lines. So what we're going to talk about next is how you can read a file with a loop and detect the end of a file. So quite often a program must read the contents of a file without knowing the number of items that are stored in the file. In Python, the readLine method returns an empty string when it has attempted to read beyond the end of a file. This makes it possible to write a while loop that determines when the end of a file has been reached. So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to read the data that we just entered into that file. And if, say for instance, if we don't know how many days worth of data that has been entered into the actual file, we can go ahead and use this next technique to determine when the end of the file has been reached. So what we're doing here is we're opening the sales.txt file for reading. And then what we're going to do is we're going to read the first line from the file, but we're not going to convert it to a number yet. We still need to test for an empty string. So right now we're testing to see if the file is empty. This is known as priming the read operation by reading in the first line of the file. So we're going to save that into line. Then as long as the empty string is not returned from readLine, we'll continue processing. So this is the extent of our while loop. It's anything indented under our while statement. So we're going to check to see if it's not a new line, an empty string. If it's not an empty string, we're going to convert the line to a float. Since it's read in as a string, then we're going to go ahead and format and display the amount with 2 decimals to the right of the number. And then we're going to go ahead, read the next line, and then we'll check to see if it's an empty string or not. And we'll continue to do that until an empty string gets returned, and then we'll go ahead and close our file. So I will go ahead and run this module. And what it's done is it's gone through, it's iterated through the file, it's read the 5 numbers in the file, and then the program has finished outputting those numbers. There's another way that you can also do this same step. So the Python language also allows you to write a for loop that automatically reads lines in a file without testing for any special condition that signals the end of the file. The loop does not require a priming read operation, and it automatically stops when the end of the file has been reached. When you simply want to read the lines in a file one after the other, this technique is simpler and more elegant than writing a while loop that explicitly tests for an end of file condition. And this is something that Python has added to their language. Not all languages have this capability. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to save. Again, we're going to open the sales text file for reading, and then we're going to iterate through the file line by line. It'll iterate once for each line in the file. The first time the loop iterates, the line will reference our line variable right here, will reference the first line in the file as a string. The second time the loop iterates, the line will reference the second line, and so on and so forth until there's no more lines to read, and then the for loop will stop reading data from the file. So again, after we read the line, since it's read in as a string, we must convert that data into a number. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing as our read sales program, and we're going to go ahead and format the output, and then we're going to go ahead and close the file. So I will just go ahead and click on Run Module. And again, what happens is it prints out our data, but as you can see, this method is a lot more elegant. You're not testing each line to find out if the line read in was an empty line or not. So that is the end of the videos talking about reading and writing files in Python. So thanks a lot, and we will talk to you later.